This is More Than Money with Mapalo Maku, brought to you by Sasfin Wealth.
Welcome to More Than Money. I'm Mapalo Maku, a personal finance columnist, and I love having money conversations that change people's perspective about finances. Why am I doing this podcast, you might ask? To talk about money. Not the paper stuff. I mean the baggage, the feeling, the emotional, heart-wrenching stuff. We find this conversation so uncomfortable to have, which is why on this podcast, I have decided to have this very difficult conversations. We are going to have some difficult discussions because better money conversations lead to better money confidence, and healthy money dialogue leads to healthy money decisions. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of having in studio Kubheka, who is a keynote speaker, author, celebrity chef, and entrepreneur. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Vuyo is a big dreamer.
Yeah.
If you were born in the 80s, that advert, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was a fictitious character.
Right.
You see this advert and you think to yourself, what?
I was working at Microsoft at the time, traveling the world, getting paid well, was super fun times, right? But every time I'd come back home and go to the township, my mom lives in Diepkloof Extension. She calls it Diepkloof Expensive.
Yes.
And I'd hear kids going, oh, Vuyo is such a big dreamer. I was like, who's this Vuyo guy? So I Googled only to discover Vuyo is just a TV advert about this guy who sells boerewors rolls and makes it into a massive business. And I thought, I wonder if it's based on a true story, if this Vuyo actually exists.
Yeah, that would really be inspiring.
Yeah, because I was inspired,
Yeah.
and clearly everybody else was. And when I Googled fictitious character dreamt up by an advertising agency, and I promptly trademarked it, and I became Vuyo from that day.
I saw the same ad as
Right.
you,
Yeah.
as many other millions of South Africans. Why would you think to yourself, okay, let me go see, first of all, is it real? Because most of us thought it was real, number
Yes.
one. But what prompted you to go further and say, okay, let me go check. Then from there to say, this is an opportunity here. What is it about you think
That's a
prompted
good
you
question.
to take that step?
In fact, I get asked that question quite a bit, especially when I started opening restaurants. And the only thing I can come up with is that as long as I could remember, my mother has always said to me, don't be an also-ran in life. If 5,000 people set out to run a marathon, 4,999 of them serve to legitimize the winner. They are there so that there's a number one. So she said, go change the world, stand for something, be somebody. And I remember thinking to myself, lay off me, woman, I'm only 3 years old. But I guess maybe it was that sense of purpose that was driven into me very early on. So I was sort of looking for my mark. You know, in hindsight, because I've done a number of cool things now, and almost always people come to me and say, damn it, I saw that, and or something like, why didn't I think of that? I get
Yeah.
that a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I see things hidden in plain sight and I execute on them. Because a lot of people, some see it, but not many execute, right? So I think it was a combination of nature and nurture. Some of it is it's just me, my natural curiosity and wanting to execute on things because it's a hypothesis, it's a guess.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would work, and then you try it and it does work. And sometimes it doesn't work. A lot of times it doesn't work, but I would rather sleep knowing it didn't work than I wonder if it would work.
But you have the fear, isn't it?
100%. I mean, even when I told my mother I was leaving my high-paying job to go sell boerewors rolls, she was like, oh, Mtanami, what about medical age ne pension?
What about pension? As any mother would.
Yes, and anybody who cares about you. And that's
Yes.
probably why people don't start anything that's epic. It's partly fear, but I think that fear is compounded by when people who love you look at you like, what's wrong? Are you crazy? Or like,
You have a good life right now.
yeah.
You're doing well.
Yeah.
You have ticked all the boxes so
100%.
far.
And I think it's 10x harder that way, especially like because I've got a lot of people in corporates or in other places who say, like, I want to do stuff that's epic, but I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can suggest to that is do it at night, do a side hustle, do it like.
Start small. Start
Start
with what
small.
you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But start.
Yes.
Right? And then you'll find that it will give you so much energy to your mundane stuff of your life because this is something you're doing for you. and it energizes you. And currently we're running, I think we're on 36 projects that are running at concurrently, and people say, oh, aren't you supposed to focus and
on one thing
on
and
one thing? And
yes.
you know that saying that says, it says jack of all trades, master of none. But the full part of that quote is jack of all trades, master of none is better than, I think it's better than master of one or something like that, or something to that effect.
Yes.
And I like that because the more stuff I work on, I'm excited, I'm enthused, but I also take the learnings from one and apply them to the other, and the world is bigger. And also I just think, why do one thing when you can do everything?
Let's take it back to growing up. You
Yeah.
mentioned that, I mean, at the age of 3, your mother is telling you that you can conquer the world.
Yes.
What has that done for you as an individual, and how much of your upbringing do you think is playing out in your life right now?
I think it's a massive blessing to have been raised by an amazing single mom who, I think, if it wasn't the time she was born in, should have been a phenomenal entrepreneur in her own right. But it also makes me realize how many people don't have either both parents, or even if they have the mother, they're trying to do their best just to put bread on the table. They can't give them that inspiration. But I guess what I'm sort of trying to get at is, I'm grateful, but I also realize the importance that mothers play, or parents generally. But I think in our country, it's mostly the moms that are there. And if I was to have one parting shot, it's just a wish that the realization that moms know that they have such an important role, because often they're just doing their best, right, to make ends meet. But I think some don't realize the power that they have in making their kids go to the next level.
Yeah.
Most moms are overwhelmed with just the day-to-day stuff, with feeding the kids,
absolutely.
making sure, and they're single moms and they're running everything. They're both parents, and that they don't have the energy or the wherewithal to also put the energy of looking forward, to making sure that this person transpires to be a better human being, that they are there for their children, to break the cycle. And that requires work.
It
And they're
does.
already
It
exhausted
does.
with
It
so
does.
it's almost an unfair and unrealistic expectation. But I'm also saying that I just wish they could have the capacity to do that as well, because
And if
it's
we can,
changed my life.
absolutely
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
All right. So you have this fancy, beautiful job. You're traveling the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you are the first in your family, right? And you said, oh no, I saw this ad. Now I'm going to do the same thing as this fictitious character.
Right.
I'm going to leave my cushy job. What are your friends saying?
Oh,
What is
everybody
your
thought I was
family saying?
crazy. I mean, I was like, no, I was sort of crazy, because in hindsight, had I done a business plan and all these things, spreadsheets, they would have probably told me it's a dumb idea, right? And to a point, even now, I'm not a big believer in things like business plans and stuff. I'm a big believer in experimenting. Try. I went to the local Forest Farmers Market, and we rocked up. We started grilling. Cost us $600 a weekend. It's accessible. It's doable.
Yes.
So you may have big dreams, but just start small. But start was the thing. So everybody thought I was crazy, but you start selling, and then next week you sell a little bit more, and then all of a sudden you're in it, right?
Yes,
And before you know it, it's a journey.
But I mean, you are leaving Microsoft, go
Right.
sell boerewors.
Yeah.
At what point do you think maybe this is a little bit too crazy? Because obviously you're not going to make the same amount of money with selling boerewors rolls. But what is your thinking going into it?
I think it goes back to my previous point. I think a lot of people have great ideas, but they remain ideas because they overthink them.
Yeah.
And then they ended up paralyzing themselves not to starting. I didn't overthink it. I just thought to myself, this is a cool idea. I wonder if it would work. That was literally it. I was like, let me go try. That's it. That's the beginning and the end. Let me just go see if this works. And wouldn't it be cool if it did work?
Yeah.
Right? So I spend more of my energy on the positive abundance side. Like, what if it did work? And I didn't even think that far ahead. I just wanted to find out now. And I didn't overthink it, and I just went and I rocked up. I think a lot of people have scarcity mindset. They think, yeah, maybe it won't work, or what if it doesn't work, or this is a crazy idea. And then it's all negative. But it's a 50-50.
Yeah, either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
And the upside of trying it is that if it does work, great. And if it doesn't work, I've learned from it.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, there was that one time I tried that thing.
And at least you have a good story to
I've
tell,
got a good
isn't
story.
it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a moment where you felt like, goodness, I should have not gone this route?
Not a day. In fact, one of the things I work with entrepreneurs now, and I can tell you, one of the key things everybody, myself included, says, I wish I started earlier. Almost always it's the default. And it doesn't mean it's fun. Oh, okay, I lie. It is fun, but it doesn't mean it's always fun, or there aren't any hard times where, like, you don't know, like, month end, like, it's proper, it's
Yeah.
rough, and no one else gets it because, your staff is looking at you, your friends are traveling the world, they've 4 holidays a year. I haven't had a holiday since 2007, right? So, and I actually earned the same amount as when I left Microsoft without bonuses in 2007. That's what I earn now,
Yeah.
which is nominal. I mean, like, and plus I would have had the holidays, the travel, all of that sort of
Yes.
stuff. So
what keeps you going?
I
Because,
love what I do.
oftentimes people think that as an entrepreneur, and I mean, you are a well-known entrepreneur,
Mhm.
people think, goodness, this guy is coining it. But that's the misconception, right?
A massive misconception. To answer your question, why I do it, and it will come back to the trappings of life. Firstly, I love what I do. I would do what I do for free. Technically, I do when you consider. I genuinely love what I do. And that's one thing I would wish for people to get to a point where you love what you genuinely love what you do. Sure, like every love relationship, it ebbs
It
and
has its-
flows.
yes.
But I think I found my purpose. So that helps massively. It gets you out of bed even on lame days, right? And the stuff I do has direct reverse correlation. Like you can see the impact of it. So you see it in people's faces, the stuff you've done, and like the impact. So that is worth more than money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm also talking from a position of privilege. I've worked for Microsoft. I've earned the monies. I've done all of the cool stuff, travel, wada. But I realized that if I continued down that route, it would be more of the same. Before cars, like, but you can only drive one. So a lot of people live beyond their means.
Yeah.
Turns out the best place
It's
is
below.
just below. I've got caviar dreams on a McDonald's budget. But the point is, if you know what they are, and it's a decision,
Yeah.
it's not, it's a term called FU money. Look it up.
Yeah.
And most people think FU money means you have to have a lot of money. It actually means decide what standard of living you want, what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, just decide what it is. And then once you know what that is, decide how much money is required to maintain that standard of living. What often happens is people start looking to the left and to the right and their peers and whatever,
Yeah.
and then they start trickling that up and ratchet it up.
Like bigger car, the
Yes.
bigger house, and just bigger and bigger and bigger after
100%.
that. But people never interrogate to say, actually, what do I want my life to look like?
Yes. Because now, once you get that right, you get the most amazing luxury, the best flex. Firstly, you don't owe anybody.
Yeah, that's the best.
That's
That
a flex.
is- oh man.
I'd rather have that than have lots of money and owe people, right? You sleep.
Yeah.
So the best flex is don't owe people money.
Yeah. But let me ask you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like this, and to someone who has aspirations to just skyrocket, right? It's the cars, it's the house, or someone who wants to build a business because they know that perhaps it's going to give them money. And let's say you're looking for a mentor, you're looking for someone to start you have been in business forever and ever, right? And I'm looking to you, and I'm hearing these things. It doesn't sound attractive to me.
Yeah, and I can get it. I probably wouldn't have sounded attractive to me when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
But I have my lived experience, right? And that's why I say I have that luxury or privilege that I've seen that side.
Yeah.
I had all those trappings. And they're cool and they're fun. There's nothing like a smell of a new car. Like all of those cool.
Yeah.
But then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I've scratched the itch. From this point on, if I did any more, it would be just more of the same. There's diminishing marginal returns. Like I'm I'm not more fulfilled. I just have more
Stuff now.
right? So you have to decide what you value. I value working with people I like. I don't have to take business from a client. If I don't like you, I fire you as a client. It was cool.
And that's powerful because you don't have
The
you don't-
pressures of
exactly.
yeah,
And sometimes the things we want, we become prisoners to.
100%. So, but it's a decision.
Yeah.
And it's a tough decision. And it's not for everybody. Some people want the trappings. And that's cool. Do you.
Yeah.
I'm just doing me. And I've found that once you clear about that, it makes a lot of things for you much more simpler.
You can pick up the phone, make a call to someone and say, you know what, I'm ready to come back to corporate. Has there ever been that moment for you?
No.
All your cards are all in.
I mean, I believe in insider trading, it's called in corporate, and you can't do it in corporate.
Yes.
Right?
You'll go to jail.
Yes, but I can do insider trading on me.
Yeah.
I know everything I'm working on, so I'm betting on me. Right? So that's the best insider trading. I've got the front seat of my own journey.
Yeah.
Right? Again though, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want someone listening thinking, for whatever reason, things are not working out and they think they need to stick it out. The interesting thing about entrepreneurship is that you must persevere, but you also must know when to quit.
Yeah.
Like I quit some of the things I'm working on because I can see that I've taken them to the next logical conclusion. And often it's a timing issue. So I come up with something, I think this is so cool, and I start working on it and like all in, and I take it to the next lecture. Because that's how I think. It's like, okay, what do I need to do today to move it forward?
Yeah.
Literally, just like now. What do I do now to make? And it's always step by step. So I'm not looking up the mountain. I'm always looking like, where am I going now, kind of thing. And before you know it, progress compounds, right? In the beginning, when you're taking these steps one by one, it doesn't look like you're making progress because you are looking forward. It's so far. And you're looking back, you haven't gone anywhere. But if you just keep putting the steps in, like day in, day out, before you know it, you've gone more forward than you. So there's less forward left and more back that you've traveled, right? So, like compound interest, you don't see the benefit. You can put in 100 rands every month for years, but there's an inflection point where it starts, flipping up. It starts hockey sticking. The question is, when do you know when to persevere and when do you know when to quit? I think when your answer is, well, I've taken this to the most logical conclusions, I don't know how else to move it forward.
Yeah.
And you've tried and you keep on trying and it's not working. That to me means, okay, logical conclusion has been met. And what I found with that though is that because it's a journey that you will look over like a book, that's just a chapter. So whilst that feels like an end, you don't know if in fact it's an end. And the best way I can explain it is that what's often happened to me is the things that I've parked, for lack of a better word, almost always down the line come back into the picture. It was just not the time at the time.
Yes.
So, but I don't know, because life is over a more expensive period of time.
And it's not linear, right?
100%.
It's not linear.
Yeah. So quitting, call it pausing then. And if that means you have to go back to corporate because you've paused, sure. I'm just grateful that it hasn't happened to me.
You are listening to More Than Money, a podcast collaboration brought to you by Sasfin Wealth. At Sasfin Wealth, we empower our clients to reach their global investment goals, to retire with dignity, and to leave a lasting legacy. If you would like to have real money conversations, visit sasfin.com/wealth and talk to us. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Now let's talk about money.
Yes.
I mean,
I thought that's all we were doing.
No, now we're talking about how you view money, how you spend money. And I mean, you've given some insights into saying, you know what, you don't owe anyone.
Yes.
When did that click for you?
I think it's a privilege. I worked at Microsoft with very smart people, with very successful and wealthy people. And there's a difference between rich and wealthy.
Oh, yeah.
Rich is the things you own you. Yeah. Wealthy is a lifestyle. It's called stealth wealth. You don't even see. I don't wear any branded anything because it's almost like reverse snobbery. It's like, I know I can afford to have things written across my chest from
and a
brands all
belt
over.
and whatever it
No,
is.
but why am
yeah.
I someone else's billboard?
Yeah.
I value me more than other things. And that's what wealthy is. It's about you.
Yeah.
What are my values? What do I stand for? What am I about? When I'm laying below my tombstone, I know I'm not going to be able to take these things with me.
Yeah.
But have I left the world a better place than I found it in whatever shape or form? And I will fail here and there, and that's okay. That's part of it. But the intent keeps me true to my mission.
Yeah.
So I was lucky in that, at a young age, I worked with people who had farms and planes and stuff like that, but you would never know. But I have to tell you the story, true story.
Yeah.
So I was young, man, and making mad money. And like you said, come from a township, everything. And I hit my numbers, like, clapped them. So I was like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I
what's the
mean,
point?
come on.
Right. And I was young. So I bought a very expensive German convertible. And I was so embarrassed to drive it because the only other person who drove a similar car was my MD at Microsoft. And he used to drive an old Range Rover type thing because that's when you know you're wealthy, when you drive
Yeah.
three
Yeah,
generational
yeah.
cars. So I buy this starter pack Porsche, but the problem is all the cars in the basement are, like I said, like
They're just normal
non-distinct.
cars.
Yeah, normal
I mean,
cars.
it's a mode of transport.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's like, Joe, now I feel bad, eh? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel bad. Like, and I'm young, dreadlocks. And so I'd be the first one to arrive at the office, and I would park in basement 3, at the last basement.
Like
at the
nobody
corn.
wants to go there.
Yeah.
You go there
Yes.
when there's absolutely no
normal
parking bays. Yeah.
I would park at the far end of that thing, and then I would leave late.
When everybody's sort of gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this is like, the things, But it is important to scratch the itch, I guess
Yeah.
is also what I'm saying, is that you can't self-actualize or value yourself versus money until you've made some of those decisions or mistakes.
Absolutely.
But
I love that. I love that.
You have to.
Yeah, and that's facts.
Yeah, you have
right?
to scratch the itch. But the point is, scratch it and move on. What I
Don't
find is
stay in the itch.
yeah. Like privilege is, you don't know that you are privileged. That's a
Yes.
problem with privilege. You
Yeah.
don't know, because to you that's how things are. That's normal.
That's the norm.
right?
Mm.
But now that I know that it was privilege, I think for me it becomes important on a platform like this to share that viewpoint. I won't even
Yes.
call it wisdom because it's just my
Yeah,
journey. I'm
yeah.
one.
Absolutely.
But I do wish it on most people, because I see a lot of people get in those same fancy cars, drive for an hour to an office they hate, to work with people they don't like, to drive back. I
and
just
do the
think
same thing over and over
again.
and over again.
I don't know what tomorrow. No 2 days are the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's fun.
And isn't that the freedom that we all seek?
That's wealthy.
Yeah.
Doing stuff you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's chores. I mean, when you run a business, particularly as an entrepreneur, there's things, you get a lot of chore loads. Like there's things you have to do because you just have to. I have to pay PAYE. I have to, there's a
that,
lot. Yeah, I got to do all those things. And it's just a drag. But you have to do them, right?
Yes.
Because those are your chores. This time of the month, blah, blah, blah. You got to do all these things. But I would say 75 to 80% of the time, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, there's something about your energy. Like, you are here on a Monday and you have a bounce to your step.
But to that, it's also a lot of gratitude.
Yeah.
Because I literally sometimes sort of pinch myself and say, things are great, thank you. I'm grateful, so I remember them. Because I know it's cyclical. I know there's going to be the not so great times.
But I mean, that is life.
But you forget when things are not going great. You think, things are just, everything sucks. But if you conscientize yourself to be grateful for when it helps you when things are not going great, to remember that it's part of a cycle.
Yeah.
And you'll actually enjoy the stuff when they are great as well, that much more, because you enjoy each point of the cycle. And each point, when you're grateful for it, makes the joy that much more sweeter when it's on the upside. But it also makes, when it's not so great, it makes the realization that you're just going through it.
Yeah.
and it's
The
not the
lows
end of
are
the
not
world.
as low.
Yeah.
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 So highs are super high and the lows are not as low as they.
Yeah.
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 And it's just mental conditioning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your son. What do you think he is learning from you?
I think the one I'm most proud of is I taught him to read from get go.
Yeah.
From get go. And again, that was a thing that was done to me. My mother was an avid reader. Okay, maybe, but like pulp literature. But nonetheless, she read.
She read. She read.
To a point, my headboard in my room was made out of books. So I made sure that my son read from the get go. And the thing about teaching children to read is that it's not about forcing them to read. It's mostly about observation. They must see you read.
Yes.
So that's number one, is that they have to see it, but you also have to live that value, right? And people think that's just a bougie thing. See, reading teaches children many things. It teaches them lateral thinking, so the imagination. Because unlike watching a show on Netflix or whatever on an iPad, so when you're teaching them how to read and all of that, firstly, that means now you can't be sitting there watching TV. And also, when it's hard, it still would be easier just to give them an iPad, right? So you need to be forthright and stick to it. So, and that's super hard.
Yeah.
Because you're busy, life is happening, but it's like everything. It's like starting a business. Once you get over the hump, then you've given them a life skill. He finished Harry Potter series, I think at 8 or 9.
That is insane. That is incredible.
And the value of that, other than them thinking laterally and stuff, is that his grades are super amazing. He gets such good marks that the teacher writes on. Did you write the script for? Did you know what? So, and that's, say, for example, maths or physics. That's got nothing to do necessarily at
with
face
the
value
literature
with
that he's
literature.
reading, yes.
But it does, because comprehension you learn from reading.
Yeah.
Understanding the question you learn from reading. Everything starts from there.
From reading.
I'm hoping for a fact that he will have, scholarships for days because his grades are. So now that's a less of an expense for me.
Look at that.
See,
what great financial planning.
It's an investment. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
so
hear
that's
you.
how
I
you
hear you.
get to live below or on your by your means, because now that's not a cost.
Yes. And I mean, it's a massive cost for parents.
Yeah.
So who helps you with your investments, with, taking a look at your financial life?
No, I do have somebody.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is about that is, if you have someone with you for the longest time in the beginning of your journey, it does help. If I was to have criticism generally about the financial services sector, is that I almost said it's very bougie. It's like art, It's, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
If you don't know, it's hard to know.
Absolutely.
Or it's perceived to be hard, because I think a lot of people, particularly black people, we have a very bad relationship with money. And I've been there where you don't want to, you buy something and it's almost like Russian roulette. You don't know if that it's going to go through. And if it does go through, you don't want to see the SMS to say how much you have, because you don't. It's like, oh my God, like I'd rather not know. All right. But putting your head in the sand means your bum is in the air. Either way, the net result is going to be the
We
same.
know.
Yeah,
We know what the
right?
result
Yeah.
is.
So I think that's, again, is like reading.
Yeah.
I'm actually going through that lesson now with my son. It's to say, so we've done the pocket money stuff, but why am I paying you? Let's have this
Yeah.
conversation.
What have you done?
Yeah. She says, but you're my dad. Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you eat. You go to school. So so we're going through that now. Next part of the journey to say, you gotta get a job. And I think you actually, because you're smart enough, you should start your own business. He says, but Dad, you've given me 3 targets here. Because we have a quarterly review. You said my grades must be X, and then this is on top of that. So I'm trying to get him to have a better work-life balance. So, I want to him to go out a little bit more with friends, girls. So that's an objective he must meet. He says, now you want to add work, a job. I go, yeah,
That's life.
that's life. That's what
Yeah.
being an adult is about. So yeah, so he's got a job now. He's starting next week Saturday actually,
wow.
half day.
The lessons are age appropriate. Okay, there's pocket money,
Hmm.
there's a piggy bank,
Hmm.
and now, okay.
Yeah. And it was important because the pocket money taught him a reliance of understanding that he needs to have autonomy, and money gives him that autonomy.
Yeah.
So at that point, I didn't care whether he realizes that that autonomy comes with responsibility. It
Yes,
just
yes.
money doesn't rain on trees.
Yeah.
But I reigned for a little bit. So to get him to understand that it's easier when it's his money because he can decide what to do with it without having to ask for the money. So that taught him the lesson to also realize that, hang on, if I spend it all at once, then I can't have money to do other things. So he started understanding that. Now he's at a stage to realize that, well, money is just, I'm not the tree that money falls off. So now he's learning that part about that he has to generate that. But my wish, or what I would actually want him to do, is not to work for somebody and build a business now. But that one is a tough one because whilst I know what I know, I'm also his dad, so I have to balance the not pushing too hard because I'll push
Yeah.
him against it kind of
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
But I'm hoping that now that he's got a job, he'll hate it so much that he'll realize there must be an easier way of doing this or a better way.
All right, so we're coming to the end of the conversation. What is the one thing that you're most proud of so far?
I think there's a couple of things, and from different views. From personally, I think my son,
Yeah.
because that keeps it's humility, but it also tracks time because you with children you see time moving.
Yeah.
And I always said I wanted one kid because I don't know how I can love two kids the same. So I kept it at one, stuck to it. So I'm very. And parents say, no, you can love two kids the same. I don't believe it. Kids will teach you humility, they make you humble. And then while things are great now, I don't know about tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it makes me be present and appreciate him for being a great kid now.
Yeah.
From a professional perspective, I think there's been many, many things, but I think two that sort of stick out is just when the other day I was sort of trying to count how many people I've employed because I saw somebody's picture and they're doing well, and I was like, I'm sure they don't even remember me, but I'm sure I played like
Just
0.001%. So that when you watch somebody's trajectory, that is super cool. Another one, which is really a nice flex, is that we power some traffic lights, and I was sitting like at the traffic lights the other day in Alex, and I like that light is on because of us.
Because of us, yeah. Probably the rest are just out.
Joe, and it's not even a joke.
Oh,
They
my
are
word.
because that one runs on solar that we
Yeah.
generate, right, and
That is
power that
incredible.
light. So
That is incredible.
and it might not seem like an important thing, a traffic light. So what? But traffic lights play such a massive, important role in that I call them passive governance. They create order. I travel across the continent. One of the first things you notice, especially in third world countries, even in China, wherever, like proper third world countries, there's no order. Like people are on motorbikes and whatever, and they drive by looking at each other in their eyes. It's like organized chaos, but it's chaos. But it's
yeah.
But you put a traffic light. There's some sort of okay, taxis maybe, but there's some semblance of order, diligence, respect.
Yes, yes.
There's rules, right? You get that right. That's how you start building communities. It's respect for each other's space and so forth. So, like, super, super love that. And in closing on that particular point, Kwalisa is also something I think massively proud of in that it's a refillery model. It allows people to buy food based on the amount of money they have. So you would like us kaftin sahau and you want maize meal for 135, we sell it to you for 135, or tea bag is 50 cents.
Yeah.
So that has a massive impact in people's livelihood.
Yeah, and dignity.
In 100% in dignity. So there's a lot more.
Yeah.
But if I was, I'm maybe choosing those particular ones, the traffic lights and Kwalisa, is because we are working on them now. We are looking to scale them now. But also as Wakanda, we help entrepreneurs grow their own journey and foodpreneurs. So that we help other people's journeys to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that one is going to have a multiplier impact that you can only see 5, 10, 15 years down the line, when people's businesses are succeeding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love what I do, and I'm grateful for it.
Miles, you are absolutely incredible. I can talk to you the whole day. I want to hear about all of these businesses, but it has been amazing having you here and sharing, how you think, because I think that is so powerful, sharing ideas and sharing our own journeys so that, other people can say, you know what, I think that guy, speaks my language. Thank you. It has been incredible having you
No,
here.
thank you. And I think my parting shot to anyone who's listening is don't overthink it. And there's no better time than today to start, and start small. Turns out every decision is right in the long run.
I love that.
So when I'm struggling to make the hardcore decisions, the worst decisions you can make is the one you don't make. Just make a decision, right? Because in the long run, when you look back, you'll realize that decision, because you made it, is what's landed up you in another positive
Yes,
trajectory, right? So, and you don't know the reverse. So you only know the one
What-
you got.
right
So,
in front of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it's upside. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. I appreciate the time. I had fun.
This was a Sasfin Wealth podcast. Visit sasfin.com/wealth for more information.